In physics of dielectrics, today we are going to discuss the AC dipolar polarizability. Actually, in last lecture we have discussed the DC dipolar polarizability. Now our aim is to discuss the AC, or you can say dynamic dipolar polarizability. Actually, to start to know the idea of AC dipolar polarizability, let us start with the situation of the DC field. Actually, in absence of the field, the dipole orientations are random, and these orientations actually is not static, but it continuously changes. And why it changes? You know that the change in the orientation of the dipole is actually the result of the phonon collisions. Actually, when the field is switched on, the molecular dipoles actually experience torque, and this torque has a tendency to line up the dipoles along the line of the applied field. But this is all the dipoles are not aligned on the line of electric field instantaneously. That is, the equilibrium polarization is not achieved instantaneously, but it takes time, and as it takes time, so you can say there is a lag in the attainment of equilibrium polarization. Actually, the time required to reach the equilibrium polarization is expressed in terms of a particular time, which is known as actually a relaxation time. And how this relaxation time is defined, I have mentioned here the definition of relaxation time, that this is the time that makes the polarization to attain nearly 2/3 of its equilibrium value. In fact, the idea of this AC dipolar polarizability is developed in terms of the idea which we have studied in case of electric circuit, that is transient phenomenon in DC electric circuit. In that chapter you have studied LR circuit, CR circuit, LCR circuit, and so on. In fact, using the idea developed the transient phenomenon in AC circuit. Here I am just taking an analogy from that circuit. We will write actually the expression for the dipole moment at any time t. In case of a CR circuit, a charge is acquired by the capacitor, and the charge actually exponentially grows with time. And this relation I have mentioned here, this is Q equal to Q naught into 1 minus e to the power minus t by tau. In case of CR circuit, this tau is actually equal to CR, and this is relaxation time actually. So with an analogy to this result, I can write here that PD of t equal to PDS of t into 1 minus t over tau. Actually here this PD of t is what? This is actually the instantaneous value of the dipole moment. When you say instantaneous value, it means this is dipole moment at any time t. And this PDS of t is equilibrium or saturated value of PD of t. Although I have mentioned here PDS of t, which actually refers that PDS is a function of time. But remember, when you will talk or when you will subject your dielectric to the static electric field, in that case, actually this equilibrium or saturated value of PD is not a function of time, but it is time independent. But when we will apply the AC field, in that condition, this PDS will be actually a function of time. Since finally our aim is to discuss the situation in case of AC electric field, so I have mentioned here T, but till now we are considering the case of a static field. So in this case, actually this PDS of T is independent of time. Now from equation 1, you can find the rate at which this PD of T will change with time. And for this we will differentiate equation 1 with respect to T. So what will be the result? dp d of t by dt equal to what? As I have told you, in case of a static field, this PDS of t is actually time independent, so it will be outside of the operator, and we will simply differentiate the factor 1 minus t over tau. And what will be that? dc of 1 will be 0, and the dc of e to the power minus t by tau, what will be it? This will be minus 1 over tau into e to the power minus t by tau. So our result is dp d of t by dt equal to 1 over t into pds of t into e to the power minus t by tau. Now you can see from equation 1, this 1 minus t by tau will be what? You can see equation 1, this will be simply pd of t by pds of t. And from here you can see this e to the power minus t by tau will be equal to 1 minus pd of t by pds of t. Now let us take the LCM and simplify the result. You can see this e to the power minus t by tau will be pds of t minus pd of t by pds of t. Now make the cross multiplication. You can see this pds of t times e to the power minus t by tau. This will be equal to pds of t minus pd of t. Now we will substitute this value of pds of t into e to the power minus t by tau in this equation. I have not mentioned here any equation number. So you can write this dp d of t by dt equal to 1 over tau times this factor, and this factor has been evaluated here. And so let us use this equation, this result in, and so we will get that dp d of t by dt equal to 1 over tau into pds of t minus pd of t. Let us say this is equation 2. In fact, up to this equation 2, our calculation is based on the assumption that the applied field is actually time independent. But our aim in this lecture is to discuss this polarizability in fact AC electric field. So now let us consider we apply an AC field, and you know, in case of DC field, this equilibrium dipole moment PDS is actually time independent. But when you will apply the AC field or the time dependent field, this PDS will actually vary with time. So in this case, we will take this PDS as a function of time. And now let us consider the applied AC field is E of t equal to E naught e to the power I omega t. Here actually E naught is the maximum value of this E of t, and omega is the frequency of the applied field. Now we will actually define this equilibrium moment. This is PDS of t. You know from the definition of polarizability that alpha is simply equal to P over E, but in this result is in CGS unit. If you write alpha equal to P by epsilon naught into E, this result will be in SI unit. So I have used here the result in CGS unit. So from here you can see this P will be in fact equal to alpha into E. So PDS of t will be equal to alpha d of 0 into E of t. Now this alpha d of 0 is what? This is in fact a static polarizability. That is the polarizability which is time independent. And we have assumed that this E of t is actually equal to E naught e to the power I omega t. Now you can see from this equation 2. This is our equation 2, and from here we can write dp d of t by dt is equal to 1 over tau pds 1 over tau pds of t minus pd of t. Let us take this term minus pd of t by tau in the LHS. So this will be plus in the LHS, and our result will be actually equal to dp d of t plus pd of t equal to what? The result is in the RHS will be actually PDS of t by tau. And we have seen that this PDS of t is equal to alpha d of 0 into e to the power I omega t. So instead of PDS of t, we write here alpha d of 0 into e naught e to the power I omega t over tau. Now this equation has a well-known solution, and that solution I have mentioned here. This is PD of t equal to alpha d of omega e naught e to the power I omega t. But remember one thing, this is a particular solution of this equation. This solution is not always valid. This solution of equation 3, which is defined in equation 4, will be valid only when we have alpha d of omega equal to alpha d of 0 over 1 plus I omega tau. When this equation 5 will be satisfied, only then equation 4 will be actually the solution of this equation 3. And so you can say for the solution of equation 3 in the form which is defined in equation 4, this condition or this result defined in equation 5 must hold. Now we will actually define the dielectric constant. You know, dielectric constant of a material is defined as 1 plus chi of omega. You know this chi of omega is what? This is in fact electrical susceptibility. As in this case, till now we have studied in dielectric there are three types of polarizability or polarization, and those are electronic polarizability, ionic polarizability, and the dipolar polarizability. So this susceptibility chi will be actually the sum of the three susceptibility, chi E, chi I, and chi D. But see here, I have not mentioned the term chi I, which is actually the ionic susceptibility. Why? Because this ionic susceptibility chi I is much smaller, or you can say this is negligibly small in comparison to the electronic and the dipolar susceptibility. So this ionic susceptibility has been neglected here, and this result, as you know, is in fact in SI unit. If you write the same result in the CGS unit, we will simply multiply by the factor 4 pi to this susceptibility. So epsilon r of omega is equal to 1 plus 4 pi chi of omega plus 4 pi chi d of omega. This result is actually in CGS unit. And as I have told you earlier, that this chi e of omega is actually electronic susceptibility, chi d of omega is dipolar susceptibility, and I have neglected the ionic susceptibility. Now you know from Maxwell's theory that 1 plus chi e, where chi is electronic susceptibility, is equal to n square. Here n is what? N is actually the optical index of refraction, or you can simply say refractive index of the material. And so if we will use this result 1 plus chi e equal to n square in this equation, that is equation 6. So instead of 1 plus this chi e, we will write n square, and hence this epsilon r of omega will be equal to what? That will be simply n square plus chi d of omega. So epsilon r of omega is equal to n square plus chi d of omega. Now we know that the susceptibility is actually proportional to the polarizability. So this chi d will be proportional to this alpha d, and so in fact in this equation 7 we can write instead of this chi d as alpha d. And so we know from this equation, you can see this alpha d of omega has been defined in this manner. This is alpha d of 0 over 1 plus I omega tau. Since as I have told you that this chi d of omega, this alpha d of omega is proportional to chi d of omega. That is, polarizability is proportional to susceptibility. So we can use simply, instead of this polarizability, we can use the susceptibility. And so using that result, we can write equation 7 as epsilon r of omega equal to n square plus chi d of 0 over 1 plus I omega tau. Now you can see from this equation 7, since when frequency is omega, then epsilon r is n square plus chi d of omega. So we can find the value of this susceptibility when omega is 0. You can see chi d of 0 will be simply epsilon r of 0 minus n square. Chi d of 0 equal to epsilon r of 0 minus n square. So let us substitute for chi d of 0 equal to epsilon r of 0 minus n square from this equation 7. So our result is epsilon r of omega equal to n square plus epsilon r of 0 minus n square over 1 plus I omega tau. You can see from this equation 8 that this dielectric constant is actually frequency dependent, and it is also a complex quantity. Now in fact our aim is to find the real and imaginary part of this complex quantity. As it is a complex, so you can write it as a combination of the real and imaginary parts of this complex. So actually this epsilon r of omega is written as epsilon r prime of omega minus I epsilon r double prime of omega. Here actually this epsilon r prime is its real part and epsilon r double prime is its imaginary part. Now to find the real and imaginary part of epsilon r of omega, let us simplify this equation 8. You know, when we want to find the real and imaginary part of a complex quantity, and if there is a complex quantity in the denominator, then we simply multiply the numerator and the denominator by the complex conjugate of that quantity. So here we simply multiply the second term which contains this complex in denominator by the complex conjugate 1 minus I omega tau of this 1 plus I omega tau in the numerator and the denominator both. So after multiplying these two factors in the denominator, we have the result epsilon r of 0 minus n square minus I omega tau into epsilon r of 0 minus n square over 1 plus omega square tau square. Now you can compare equation 9 and equation 10, and comparing the real and imaginary parts of these two equations 9 and 10, you can easily find what will be the real part epsilon r prime and epsilon r double prime, which is imaginary part of epsilon r omega. So I have written here the real and imaginary part after comparing it from equation 9 and 10, and you can see the real part of this dielectric constant epsilon is epsilon r prime, which is n square plus epsilon r of 0 minus n square over 1 plus omega square tau square, and its imaginary part is epsilon r double prime of omega epsilon r 0 minus n square into omega tau over 1 plus omega square tau square. Actually these are the two very important equations, and these equations are actually known as Debye equations. Now let us see the graphical discussion of these Debye equation. In fact, for your convenience, I have shown the graphical plot of these two equations A1 and A2 here. Actually in this graph we have shown the graphical variation of dielectric constant epsilon r of omega in against of omega tau on a logarithmic scale. You know, when the value is very small, then we all in general plot a graph on logarithmic scale. You can see from this graph that the real part epsilon prime r of omega is essentially constant, but it is a constant. But when actually the omega tau is very small, that is omega tau is much smaller than 1. Here actually omega tau is 1. So when omega tau is much smaller than 1, or you can say omega is much smaller than 1 over tau, in this region actually epsilon prime r of omega has a very has a particular value, has a constant value, and this constant value is epsilon r of 0, as I have shown in this figure here. And so you can see it. But when the situation is just reverse, that is, if we consider that the frequency now is greater or equal to, in fact, 1 over tau, 1 over tau. In that condition, you can see from this figure that this real part of the dielectric constant decreases, and eventually it is fixed at a particular value which is actually equal to n square. You can see after this value n square, this curve is parallel to the omega tau axis. It means what? It means this epsilon r prime of omega becomes independent of this omega. Actually this result is obvious. In fact, in large frequency range, the dielectric constant is actually a constant. That is, there is no dispersion effect. But in the smaller frequency range, that is in the a smaller frequency range, actually it is a dispersion, the case of dispersion. But when frequency is very large, then actually the dielectric constant becomes constant and its value is equal to n square. Now let us see the graphical plot of the imaginary part of this dielectric constant. This has been represented by this second curve, which I am showing here. This is a graphical plot of epsilon r double prime of omega. You can see this epsilon r double prime of omega has a maximum value when actually omega tau is equal to 1, or you can say that tau is equal to 1 over omega. And this epsilon r double prime actually decreases as the frequency departs from this particular value, which is actually 1 over tau. In both sides, if the frequency increases from 1 over tau or it is less than 1 over tau, in both situations actually the value of epsilon r double prime decreases, and it has a particular maximum value when actually omega tau is equal to 1, or you can say that omega is equal to 1 over tau. Actually this particular frequency is known as a resonant frequency. This is just like the case of resonance, so it is also called resonant frequency. In fact, here one thing we must note, that a part of electrical energy is also dissipated in the dielectric in the form of heat, and this is actually the consequence of the fact that the polarization in alternating fields lags behind in phase relative to the applied field. And it is found that the rate of this loss is proportional to this epsilon r double prime. And you know epsilon r double prime is actually maximum when omega is equal to 1 by tau. So this loss will be maximum when the frequency of the applied field is equal to 1 over tau.